Well, thank you for having me on, Q, and thanks to everyone for joining today. I've got a fairly large presentation, but I'm going to go through it quite quickly, and that's mostly because I want to spend more time on the demo, show you what's new, show you what's coming, but I'll actually cycle through each slide, so as you might review the presentation afterwards, you'll at least have access to each of the slides. Feel free to ask questions on the chat queue. Since I won't be able to see the chat, just go ahead and interrupt me whenever. I've got a couple questions someone sent privately that I'll get to at the end. But with that said, I'll go ahead and get going. So we're very excited about this new release of Vibe OnPrem 3. It has been formerly known as Novell Teaming. So if you have been a Novell Teaming customer or aware of what's gone on there, I've got a couple slides that will speak directly to how this is the evolution from Novell Teaming. It's a next generation social collaboration platform. We've done a lot to improve our overall user experience. We've adopted the same name that you see from Vibe Cloud that Karen will be reviewing later today. Vibe Cloud was formerly known as Novell Pulse. But both Pulse and Teaming were team productivity products, and so we brought those both together under the Vibe name. They still have some differences. This slide talks about some of the high-level components between Vibe OnPrem and Vibe Cloud, and you see on the bottom of each column it shows some of the differences. So at the top level, we've got access controls, file sharing, groups and workspaces, searching and tagging. For the on-premise, there's a very advanced workflow engine. We've got landing pages that people are using for website management, and then much more robust content management features. And then on the cloud side, it's a little more social in nature, really facilitates B2B interactions since it's in the cloud. But you'll see that the differences will be reduced between these two products over time. But for now, we've got everything under the Vibe name. This slide shows a little bit of the history with Teaming 2 and 2.1 and now Vibe OnPrem 3. It touches on just some of the main features that came out in these releases. You can see we've been quite aggressive in how we've been doing updates with Teaming and Vibe. We are continuing to do that. The next release, called Evergreen, is planned for June of this year, the June timeframe. But we are really working hard to bring a lot of value very quickly. For those customers who are teaming and they now hear about Vibe OnPrem, on slide 6 now, from those teaming customers' perspectives, you may have heard of Teaming 3, and Teaming 3 is Vibe OnPrem 3. It was the same product underneath when we decided to adopt the Vibe name and go through that branding change. That's really what it was a branding change. So those customers who were used to teaming and do upgrades know that it's not an architectural migration, it's not a completely different product, it's a rebranding of teaming. So as upgrades are performed, we preserve all content, structure, landing page forms. Anybody who is current on teaming maintenance is entitled to Vibe OnPrem 3. The installation and configuration process with Vibe is very consistent with what was going on with the Teaming 2 line. Novell continues to support our Kablink community. We're moving that under the Vibe name. And you'll continue to see the regular updates as we have done in the past, and you'll see some of that going forward. Now the next two slides touches on what I see very regularly as the top areas of success with customers who are using Teaming and Vibe. First and foremost is as a knowledge repository. We store and index hundreds of different file types. We have many different collaborative information types out of the box. And what that means is not only do you store files, but you can do really nice things with wikis and blogs and discussion forums and surveys and calendars and tasks. You also have the ability to create custom forms, electronic forms, if you want to do unique types of metadata capture or records management type of things. But the top use case that I see is definitely knowledge repository. Following that is what I call project collaboration. And customers are using Vibe and Teaming to store all related information to a project in one project workspace. They can put nice branding around that workspace, put a nice landing pages to facilitate navigation and information sharing. All tasks related to the project can be in there, calendar events, all document sharing. You've got many levels of access control, so you can have areas of the workspace that are private and areas that are public. Workflows and forms can be leveraged to automate processes that are tied to the project, but project collaboration is definitely a top use case as well. Following those top two is document management and then process automation. We automatically version documents. We introduced major and minor versions in Vibe OnPrem 3. I'll demo that. Lots of customers use the workflow to add additional functionality to the document management. For example, someone might use a workflow to facilitate document approval or document lifecycle policies or things like that. The process automation is directly related to our workflow. You can think of common business processes where they're currently being done manually today. A lot of people don't have the money and the resources to buy an expensive workflow tool and get trained on that. With some basic training, many technical users can create their own workflows and forms, and that helps reduce costs around business processes that might be prone to errors because of the manual nature of them. And then the fifth trend that we're seeing more and more of is people using Vibe and teaming as an intranet solution. The back 2 pages of this slide are actual websites inside Novell that are built on top of Vibe. And then the front one, Abraham Lincoln Academy, that's just a sample website, a sample collaboration space that we have out on our resource library. And I'll actually show you where that is. But we're definitely seeing this trend more and more and more. It's probably the most common trend that I see of customer inquiries in the last 6 months, where people are adopting Vibe and teaming, and they're doing all of their collaboration. They're consolidating their tools into a single platform. And part of that consolidation motivation is, hey, can I leverage this to build and maintain my intranet so I don't have to duplicate content between my collaboration space and then my internal website. For Vibe OnPrem 3, the top level things that we focused on, really we put a tremendous amount of effort in the user experience. I'm going to demo this here very quickly. We've really facilitated some easy branding, introduced something called site branding. The menus, the navigation have been greatly simplified. It's much more intuitive. We're getting a lot of accolades around our new user experience. We've introduced something called activity streams. If you're familiar with the Facebook wall and you have a stream of all the activities that are going on Facebook, it's very similar to that. We've enhanced our user profiles. That screenshot there is an example of what we call our quick profile. Under document management, we've added a number of features that are listed there. I'll demo most of them. And then under performance, we've really enhanced the indexing on the back end. And what that means is that users will see a faster performance of the system. Any type of indexing activities are much faster. If administrators are doing any type of re-indexing or index cleanup or things of that nature, those activities are much faster now. We've done some improvements around the relevancy of search results. We've added single sign-on capabilities for customers who are using NTLM and Kerberos authentication. We've introduced a number of integrations with Novell Conferencing and Novell Messenger. And then we've also enhanced some workflows, user management, and then the home page. The home page is a nice feature. Again, it's tied into people wanting to use the tool as an intranet. Administrators now have the ability to create a home page where anybody logging into the system will be directed to that home page as the first page. Previously, we would go to a user's personal workspace, but now they can set up a home page for users, named users, and as well as guests. At a high level, there are a number of different components, the customizable workspaces. There's a slide on each one of these, and I'll touch on those slides briefly to enable us to get more quickly to the demo. So the customizable workspaces, it's very easy for users to create their own workspace. They don't have to go to IT. It doesn't require any type of extensive training. If they have access to do this, they just simply create a new workspace. They're given a number of options. They can choose between workspace templates that we provide out of the box. That's here at the top of the screenshot. And within those templates are a number of information types, and that's near the bottom of that screenshot. Those information types are discussions, blogs, wikis, file sharing, guest books, calendars, tasks. I think we have about 10 to 12 different information types that we deliver out of the box without any additional work. And each one of the workspaces can contain each of those information types, or you can create your own information types using the custom forms. But a lot of options around customizing your own workspaces. We've done a lot around the social tools. Activity Stream is the new feature that we've added with version 3. We've always had the blogs and the microblogs, the wikis, all information types. You can tag and rate. It's very simple to do that. When you do searching, we facilitate expertise location, and then you can see a number of other social type activities that we support within Vibe as well. Access controls, well, this is definitely a strength of our system. It's fairly granular, so you can control access by user, by group, by team. You can define access controls at the workspace folder and now the entry level. The entry is our bottommost level of how we store information, so you can define access on the entry level now. You can create custom roles and assign people to those roles. All of that, a lot of capabilities there. By default, all of the access controls are inherited from parent folders or workspaces. You have the ability to easily change that and define your own access controls on some of the subfolders or workspaces. We have something we call guest access, and we have some customers who they have Vibe or teaming outside the firewall. Universities are great examples of this. City governments or local governments are another great example, where much of the collaboration is still private in the system, but there are areas of the system where the organization has allowed public access or guest access. It would be just like accessing any website. You don't log in, you just browse and navigate the website, and we can accommodate that with our guest access capabilities. Under content management, a lot of new capabilities we've added there. I've mentioned major and minor versions. I'm going to demonstrate many of these, but lots of great capabilities that people are leveraging under content and information management. Workflows we'll touch on as well, but very powerful workflows that can be leveraged. The Relevance Dashboard, we've done a lot to enhance users' profiles. We've done a lot around simplifying people's access to get the latest information based on what they have access to in their team membership. Providing single view of information across all the system or focused on just areas like calendars and tasks. And I'll be able to demonstrate much of this as well in the demo. From an integration perspective, we've done a lot of integrations in 2010. And so Vibe OnPrem has some really nice integrations with GroupWise now. If you've got the GroupWise 802 Windows client, you can see and view your collaborative workspaces directly within the folder view of GroupWise now. It's very easy when you do a GroupWise search to extend that search to include Vibe content. So you don't have to go and search 2 different repositories. If you have emails that contain documents that you want to store in your Vibe repository, or maybe you just want to store the email itself, maybe it's related to a project and you want to keep track of all the information on the project, you can easily drag and drop those emails directly into Vibe folders, or you can drag and drop the attachments from an email into a Vibe folder. So some really good integrations that have come out with GroupWise. We just introduced some integrations with conferencing, and then of course the integrations we now have with Novell Messenger. If you have this integration turned on, you'll see Messenger presence directly in Vibe. You can start an IM conversation through Messenger from that integration. And we also now include Novell Messenger as an entitlement to Novell Vibe. I have a slide that touches on that, but we have many customers who might want to leverage Messenger who may not have GroupWise, and so they can do that now. We've got a mobile interface. We've had this for over a year now. A lot of people aren't aware of it, and so I have this nice slide. What you can do here is through your mobile device, the browser on the mobile device. You log into your Vibe URL, and you're delivered what we call our mobile UI. It's just a simplified, intuitive, scaled-down version of the system that really facilitates information access. So you can easily search, you can access all of your folders and workspaces and files. All the files that we index, we have the ability to convert them to HTML. And what that allows you to do is if you're on the road and you just have a mobile device, you can consume your files via the HTML view as opposed to have the native app on your mobile device like Word or Excel or something like that. You can actually consume it in the simple HTML format because we convert that. This is a screenshot of the new user experience. I'll show some of this, but you can see it's much cleaner, it's much more simple. The menus have been greatly simplified, and I'll be able to show you all of this as well. This is a sample of the activity streams. Again, think of the Facebook wall. In Vibe Cloud, it's called the big list, but you can see a what's new of all the things that you have access to. On the left, you see it can be by workspace or folder. It can be by things you've listed as your favorites, your team memberships, people or places you're following, or even site-wide. This has really been nice. We've seen within Novell our own usage as this was rolled out internally, that it draws people into the system much more now. They can go to site-wide, what's new, and people can see all the activities that are going on in the system that they have access to. And that draws them in to participate, draws them in to see what's going on, and then to comment. And so this has been something that we've been fairly excited to see. The wikis, we've just done a number of improvements. We're continuing to do improvements. Wikis are a very common and popular feature. We're making them just that much better with some of the work that we're doing with the user experience, and this is a screenshot of that. Under the licensing, we've got really two basic type of licenses. The user license is really what most people have today. It's a named user license. If you're familiar with GroupWise, think of it as similar to the GroupWise license. Everyone has their own email box. And so in the case of Vibe, you have a user license, and again, this is how most people do it. For those people who want to use the guest access capabilities, like the example I mentioned with city governments, local governments, or universities, really anybody could do that. There is a separate guest access license that's required to do that for people who are not named user licenses. Now, one of the things that we have done, you'll notice on the very bottom of this particular slide is new, is now if you have over 500 or more user licenses of Vibe that are under current maintenance, you get the guest access license unlimited usage for free. Now the guest access license retails at right around $20,000 per instance. So this represents a huge savings for customers and is definitely a differentiator with us, with our competition, as we now include that for free if you've got 500 users or more. And then of course I mentioned that Novell Messenger is now included with the product. The resource library is a great tool. I'll demonstrate this. It's a public resource with workflows, form examples, templates, videos, articles, etc. I'll show you where this is, and I would encourage you to go out and take advantage of this after. We've also published a number of use cases. I'll show you where those are at. A lot of people don't know about the validation that we've received with our collaboration tools. So here's a quote from IDC. And then, of course, Forrester back in 2009 named Novell a leader for collaboration platforms, and that report is also available out on our website. Some of the advantages that we have, I've mentioned the content management and workflow. Forrester specifically called out our workflow capabilities. I've talked about our role-based and security access controls. That's very powerful and a differentiator for us. Faster time to productivity with a quick install and setup. This is something that I hear very often from our partners and from our customers, that Vibe, as it relates to other collaboration tools, is much faster to set up. It's much more accommodating with existing infrastructure and tools. It's much easier and cheaper to maintain. Now, we don't have any formal reports that show this right now, but it is very common. We have a number of success stories where customers have used competing products and then they move to Vibe. I have partners who regularly state to me that they can come in and deliver the same value for customers on projects at much lower cost and much lower maintenance cost in the long run. This is definitely a differentiator for us. I've talked about the branding. I'll show you that. I'm going to skip down to the bottom of this slide. The integrations, obviously, with our Novell collaboration products is also one of the great differentiators for us. Okay, before we get to Evergreen, let's go ahead and jump over to the demonstration. Q, just jump in if I have any questions that are pending or if the screen share is not coming across okay. I'm assuming it's all coming across well.
Yeah, everything's coming through fine. There were a couple of questions really quick before you get into that part probably. Let's see, we have one. Can we leverage Edirectory for access control?
Yeah, we do authentication and user management through LDAP. So through our LDAP connection, you can tie Edirectory or Active Directory in that. You can leverage your groups that you may have assigned in Edirectory. For example, here at Novell, we have a number of distribution groups that we use in GroupWise as well as are managed in our Edirectory, and we bring those in as groups within Vibe.
Okay, and then the next one is there an Android version?
Our mobile UI is through the browser on the mobile devices. So if the browser on the mobile device is HTML4 or above and JavaScript enabled, then our mobile UI will support it. And pretty much any recent mobile phone, smartphone meets that need. So yes.
Okay, and looks like we have a couple other ones. Somebody mentioned that they had read Salesforce.com purchased DimDim. I guess what's the conferencing thing. What does that mean for the future of Novell conferencing?
Yeah, so we have a contract with DimDim that's in place. We're definitely aware of Salesforce's intentions with what they're doing with DimDim, but our contract protects us. So we're still selling conferencing, we're still supporting conferencing, and any customers with existing subscriptions, or even if somebody bought one today, they still get the same service. We were using it just this week. Let's see, it's already Thursday. Wow. So yeah, I mean, it's still there, it's still supported, and from our perspective, it's still business as usual. I mean, it's reasonable to assume that some things will change in the future, but that's not going to affect anybody with current subscriptions.
Okay, and then we have one more. It says we have GroupWise 8 Service Pack 2 base and are having trouble connecting Vibe through NAM.
Through NAM. Okay. Well, in that case, I would just, when this is over, my email address is trsmith@novell.com. Feel free, whoever that is, to reach out directly to me, and I'll work with you. We use NAM here at Novell. All of our Vibe front end is done through Novell Access Manager, and it works very well. So I'll definitely, the person who had that, just follow up with me directly, and I'll help with the technical resolution of that.
Okay. Oh, and there's a couple more that came through, and then I'll let you get into the presentation.
No problem.
The next one is it possible to show external RSS feeds on a landing page?
Yeah, I saw that. So today we do RSS as outbound. We don't have RSS inbound yet. It's one of the things that are on our roadmap, but unfortunately we don't have that today.
Okay. And then let's see, there's two more. Can the Vibe Data Sync connector sync calendar events to the mobile?
Yeah, in fact, that's one of the things I'm going to show you that is on our roadmap for Evergreen. So I'll talk about that here in a few minutes.
And then the last one I have is, can guests fill out surveys?
Yes. So guest access, the challenge with guest is, as a guest, they don't have any ID. So they don't have it, they're not a named user. But if you wanted to have a generic form where somebody can fill out that form and submit it, yes, that's no problem. It's very simple. The challenge might be you don't have a way of limiting filling that form out to one particular user, like you're maybe doing a survey. But in the case of city governments, we have some examples where they may have a public-facing version of the website, and they allow their citizens to go and maybe submit incidents that might need addressing by the city, like maybe there's a pothole or there's a stray animal or some type of road damage or things like that. And they can go onto their website, go to these forms, and then those forms are routed through a workflow to the appropriate groups within the city. So that's a simple example of how that's used today.
Perfect. That looks like all the questions for now.
Okay, great. Thank you. I hope I'm not going too fast. There's definitely a lot to cover, but hopefully this is useful. So what I'm showing now is I'm going to log in. This is just a demonstration system that I use fairly regular. So I'm logging in as Bob Novell. And the first thing that you'll notice that I come to one of these home pages. So rather than going to Bob Novell's personal workspace, the administrator here has set up a home page. And this can be, you can view this as a simple internal website where a user can come in, I've gone on this landing page. I'm accessing a number of resources. As a user, if I want to go directly to my personal workspace, I can easily do that by clicking on my name or selecting the personal workspace button. So this is one of the new features, this home page. So I'm going to go through each of the, at a high level, the functionality that's here. So I'm at Bob's personal workspace. You can see that the left navigation is greatly simplified now. It's much more intuitive. If there were multiple layers of the left navigation, it would operate just like File Explorer. So I can navigate through those and expand folders and other areas. But the different folder types that Bob has access to, blogs, calendars, files, guests, photo albums, etc. These are all shown here by default. This is Bob's dashboard. I've got the accessory tab highlighted where Bob might see a summary of his tasks and other activities within his workspace. Some of the things with Bob's, you can see that here I can go to Bob's detailed profile. I'll do that in a second. Bob is currently offline. The Novell Messenger integration is turned off right now, or Bob is not logged in through Messenger, and so it shows offline. Anytime I see a user's name, I get this little avatar that will show their instant messenger status. This is the microblog, so think of this as a Twitter feed or a Facebook feed, but specifically to the enterprise. Right, so you can just do simple updates, and other people who might be following you or might want to be aware of your status. This is the microblog is a very simple way of doing that. When I go to my profile, the profile has been greatly enhanced. If you're familiar with LinkedIn, it's a lot like LinkedIn in the sense that it's much more robust. The fields within your profile can be synced from the directory. Your information that you may have stored in the directory. Users have the ability to come out here and add their own profile image. This is my picture that, let's see here if I got it right. Hopefully the system is not going to ask me to log back in. But it's very easy for users to update their profile picture, to edit their profile. If the conferencing integrations are on, so you can see here's my picture. I'll set that as my avatar. I can edit my profile to provide any type of additional information. I like movies. All right, you can put anything in here that you want about yourself. Usually in the About Me space, people put technical skills, technical experience. If an organization wants to modify or update the profile to add additional fields of information, an organization can do that for the entire organization. But it's fairly easy to update the profile, and then along the profile you can see all the teams that the user might belong to, any groups that they're a member of, and any places that they're following. When somebody sees that profile, so let's go to the What's New area, and they click on a user's name. This is the quick profile. So here you can see my microblog. I'm doing a demo. You can see I updated my picture, and this quick profile would show up for any user across the system. So what I'm showing here now is the What's New feature. The What's New option is right here in the top menu. Any folder or workspace you're in, I'm currently in Bob's personal workspace. I can click on What's New, and I can see all the What's New activities for Bob for that particular folder or workspace. I can also highlight other areas. So I've got the teams that I'm a member of. I can see all the What's New activity on those teams. I can expand that and drill down into one particular group. I can come in and click on site-wide and see all the activities that are going on site-wide. If I want to click on any individual's name, I can see their quick profile as well. So in this case, it's the admin of the demo system. But the What's New stream is something that's been very effective for our users. If a home page is not set up by the admin, the new default view for users as they come in is What's New site-wide. And that just, again, it brings and draws users into the system much more effectively than in the past. The What's New view is automatically updated. By default, it updates every 60 seconds. And the administrator can slow that down, speed that up. A user can pause that update, and the user can automatically refresh the updates that are going on. So this is something that if this was left untouched, this would automatically update for the user. And I also see this with customers and here at Novell where people will leave the What's New site-wide on and just watch some of the activities that are going on throughout the system. Now, from a branding perspective, I'm going to go back to Bob's personal workspace. I'm going to go to his file folder, and I want you to imagine this being a workspace folder, a project folder, a team workspace. We've done a lot to simplify branding. So under the folder menu, and this menu, by the way, will change based on what access rights I have within this folder, and it will change whether I'm viewing a folder or a workspace. So if I click on Bob Novell, you can see the menu option change to workspace. Now Bob has full rights here, so the menu options here are fairly extensive. So under the file folder, if I wanted to brand this folder to make sure everybody knew that when they come to this folder, they're in my space, I can come out here under this advanced and I can say, something simple. This is my space. I can make it a little bigger. I can bold it. I can make it a different color, just so it'll stand out. And when I save that, you can see that it just shows up here. It replaced that Vibe OnPrem graphic. If I don't like the colors, that's also very easy to change now. I can come in here and do some simple colors. I can put a different background. I can change the text color. I don't know if these colors are that great, but hopefully you get the idea. And you can see that the background color changed. You can still see that the HTML that I put there, and then some of this light green changed the text color. If I really know what I'm doing and I'm graphically oriented, maybe I don't just want to do colors. Maybe I want to come in here and select a graphic instead of that image. You can see a graphic is easily done there. I can also come in and put a background image. So if I have some image that might represent my group or my team, and I want to put that in the background as opposed to the color that I have, then I can do something like this. So you can see very easily and very quickly you can do some very nice branding. You have the ability to do branding on all folders, on all workspaces. So if I go back up to Bob's top workspace, you can see the branding goes away. If I go down to the folder we were just working on, the branding comes back. If I've really messed things up, I can go back in and I can just very, very easily clear that branding, and it goes back to the default that it inherited. The administrator now has the ability to create site branding. So they can do exactly what I just did, but lock the branding down for the entire site. And that's something that, again, really speaks to people who are doing using the system as an intranet. Now, under doc management, some of the features that we've added here, I'm looking again at the file folder. Here's my list. I've got 3 files that I've loaded for today's demo. If I look at a file, I can see, here's my file. I'm on version 1.2. I've not changed the status of this particular file. I can do a number of actions. This is the viewing as HTML. I haven't done this. It's a very simple file, but it takes that file and converts it to HTML. If that was 30 pages of a report, then I would very easily be able to see that in HTML. I can edit this file directly. So before I do that, let's come in here and let's take a look at some of the other areas. Under the entry history, I now have a detailed history of all changes within this particular entry. So you can see before today's call, I added the file, and then I went in and made a bunch of changes. If I want to, I can go and compare the metadata for any changes I've made. I can click one and I can say, oh, the last 3 changes were all done in error. I can go back and take something from the past and I can promote it to current, and it would move it to be the most current version. This entry history exists on every information type. So if I go to some other file, let's say if I'm a member of this Panther team, I look at the file folder here, I select one of their files, I look at the entry history there, it shows me the history of that particular entry. This one would be more detailed, and so I convert that. You can see there's my HTML view of that. Again, the great thing about the HTML view is it's really useful for mobile devices. If I go to, let's say, this survey folder, surveys are something that we provide here within Vibe. I can see the survey options that are available here within this particular workspace. Voting on this particular survey looks like it's been closed. but this entry history is there as well, and I can see that the only history on this particular one is that when this particular survey was created. So that's very useful, makes it very simple for people who to get nice details around the history of any particular piece of information within the system. So that's the entry history tab. Now, if you have a file that you're storing, you now have the ability to look at all file versions of that file. So I started with version 1, I went to 1.1, I went to 1.2. If I want to modify this file in place, I can just edit this file. It'll open OpenOffice directly. It's asking me for a login through WebDAV. It opens OpenOffice. In this case, it's just an OpenOffice file. And I can add information to that particular file. I save it back out. It saves directly into the Vibe system. And then when I'm done with that and refresh that screen, you can see that now I'm on version 1.3. If I take a look at that file in HTML, you can see it's added my changes. Let's say now I like these changes and I'd like to make this version 2. It's very easy to do that. I increment it to the next major version. It asks me to confirm that. I say OK, and now when people see that, they can see version 2. So a lot of nice things that we've done around doc management, and we find that people are finding that quite useful. Now, to go back to future, I'm trying to wrap up here in a few minutes. Evergreen, again, is our next release. The time frame for Evergreen is we're shooting for mid-June. We're just about code complete on it, so I can actually show you some of this functionality working quite well. The question queue that was asked about, can I sync calendars to my mobile device from Vibe? We're building a connector through Novell Data Synchronizer for Vibe OnPrem. And what that will allow is that any calendars and tasks that activities that you're doing in Vibe will now be synced directly to GroupWise, and then vice versa. If you're doing calendars and tasks within GroupWise, which all of us are, that's certainly where I manage all my calendar activities, that information can now be synced back to Vibe. And because the mobility connector through Data Sync, all of those synchronizations that happen will go to that mobility connector and then be in turn synced to your mobile device. And the mobility connector works for any of the modern mobile devices that are out there today. So yes, in short, this will give you data and calendar synchronization with your mobile device through Novell Data Sync connector that we're building. We are doing a number of technical previews. We've already released preview 1. We expect another preview to come out here in a couple of weeks. And then we'll be doing a number of those as we lead up to the release as we're shooting towards that June timeframe. We're also doing a lot of work around improving tasks. So if I go back to my task folder, actually I'm going to go to an existing system. That's my real picture there. We're putting a lot of effort around improving the way tasks look and feel. So we're adding, to go back to the presentation, we're adding the notion of subtasks, we're adding a simple dependency, and we're allowing task ordering. Now this is definitely not full project management, but it is absolute a number of enhancements to the way that we do task management today. So it'll be a lot more effective. So you can come in this particular example, this is a build system that we do every day, so hopefully we haven't introduced anything that might break this. But here you can see that I've got my task, but now I have the notion of subtasks. And these subtasks are all tied to the parent task. I can collapse that parent task. I can reorder things if I want to collapse that and move one up. I now have the option to easily do that. I can more easily change the priorities and the statuses. It's just a lot more intuitive than we've had in the past. And the new features of subtasks and dependencies, we think it will definitely add a lot more value to how people are doing task management within the system today. So you can see this is all working right now. Again, this is on our demonstration system. We anticipate starting our beta actually within about 3 weeks. So very shortly, if not today, we'll be sending out beta notifications for people to sign up and help participate in our beta. So task management is, I think, something that will be very attractive to people. We've also done a lot of work around landing page improvements. We've improved the editing capabilities, so there's now drag and drop editing. We didn't have that before. We've added a simple notion of a text editor widget, so you don't have to refer to an existing entry in a landing page anymore. You can now just drop in simple text through this new widget. We've added an iframe widget, so if you want to pull in content from another website or another source, you can do that now through the iframe. There's a whole another set of extensions we've made on landing pages. Gadget support is starred because we're just not sure if we'll be able to get that in. It's something that we've been hoping to, but we don't anticipate that will get in. This is just a quick screenshot of the new task UI. I just demonstrated that quickly. Other things that we're doing under what we call internally cloud commonalities. These are things where we're making efforts to bring functionality between Novell Vibe OnPrem and Vibe Cloud, bringing that functionality together a little better. And one of the ways I can show that is this What's New stream. So I'm here on our demonstration system. So you can see the What's New looks a little bit better. It's a little more obvious that this is separate from a file folder or file structure view. If they want to get out of What's New, it's more obvious now than what it was before. When you are looking at tasks now, the What's New view is the same, except over here on the right, there's a number of mouse over events that are now available. If I wanted to reply, I can now reply directly in line. Apologize for my spelling. It will shows up directly in line. If I wanted to tag something, I can very easily tag. Sorry, I've got my. All right, I can see other tags that already exist. I can very easily apply that tag. Before, I would have had to open the entry and do some of these activities. So we're just doing some things within this What's New view to make it a little bit more useful. We've added the ability to show things that are read or not read. We have the ability to now only show things that are unread. So if people want to use that to help keep better track of what's going on. So again, just enhancing some of the capabilities within What's New. We're also doing a lot of work around Office integrations. I can't show any of this today. It's starred because we don't know. It's taken a bit longer than we had expected. But we're working on some things to do some nice integrations with native integrations with Microsoft Office. And so kind of take a look out for that in the future, depending on how much progress we're able to make there. The next couple of years, outside of the immediate focus on Evergreen, we'll continue to focus on tight integrations with Novell products. The next major emphasis that we're going to put on is tighter integration with existing file systems. We see a lot of customers who are looking for Vibe to be an extension of their existing file store. So rather than having to move all the files into a new collaborative tool, they want Vibe to be like a Web 2.0 view or to sit on top of existing file systems. And so that's what we'll be focused on, put a lot of effort on that. We'll also continue to deal with or work with integrations for the Vibe platform. That's meaning the work we're doing between cloud and on-prem. And then you can see a lot of the other integrations that we're focused on there. I'm not going to go through each just because of time. But a lot of areas of focus. We'll continue to do the short cycles. So we'll look at the next set of objectives and priorities. I meet with customers and partners all the time. Sometimes our priorities shift based on that feedback. But we'll continue to do an update about every 6 to 8 months, which has been what we've been doing for the last 2 years now. A couple of resources for you. You can go out and try our virtual sandbox. You don't have to install anything, and that's the URL to do that. You can go out and download our starter pack, which includes 10 free licenses, unlimited usage. You can get that for free. And then, of course, the resource library is where I'll end the conversation today. So if you go out to the Novell.com website, you go under Products, go down to Vibe OnPrem, you go to our product page. This is our product page. If you go to the Resource Library tab, this is a lot of great information for you. We make an update on this library about every week. So here you have a whole ton of examples of forms and workflows. There's about 50 examples out there. A bunch of these examples have come from customers and partners. You can click on any one of these and get a view of the sample form. In this case, it's a simple form to facilitate article submission. It will show you the workflow that's behind that form. And then if this is something that you're interested in, we have some basic information about how this is used. And then you can just download this zip file and then import it into your own Vibe system. Some of these work for previous versions. So in this case, this particular zip file works for Teaming 1, 2, 2.1, and Vibe OnPrem 3. But again, we've got a lot of examples out here, but this is all free, and we do updates on a fairly regular basis. We update articles and information about Teaming and Vibe on a regular basis. A number of audio and video resources have come out recently. We have sample workspaces. So not only can you take an example form and workflow and import it into your system, but you can also take some of these sample workspaces and import them directly. It includes all the structure of a workspace. It includes an example landing page, maybe in some cases multiple landing pages. It might come with some sample data, but the intent is to give you a quick start in that particular type of activity. Lots of success stories have come out in the last year, so you can read through these success stories and see how other customers are using this solution. We produced a number of detailed use cases. Again, I talked about knowledge management, project collaboration, document management being some of the top use cases, and many of these use cases are reflected here as well as in the success stories. And then lastly, under additional resources, just some additional things you can use, but this is where you can also get that Forrester Wave report or other types of analyst information about our products. And I believe that's it. So any questions?
Yeah, it looks like there's quite a few questions here. Let's start with this first one. Can you put a calendar on the landing page?
Yes, that's one of the new capabilities we're adding for Evergreen, is to add a calendar widget to a landing page. So you can't do that today in version 3. You can reference calendar content, but it won't look and feel like a calendar on the landing page.
Okay, and there's a few more here. It says, follow up from the conversation with DimDim. How long is Novell's contract with DimDim for conferencing?
We don't disclose that. It's fair to say that anybody with a current subscription is supported through the length of that subscription, and right now it's still on our price list. The contract does protect Novell for multiple years, but we're having discussions with them. We know the intent of Salesforce, so it's certainly reasonable to assume that things will change in the future. But for now, conferencing is still a great, very simple, very cost-effective tool to use. And again, people, if they like it, it's still available and they can buy it today.
Okay, and then let's see. The next one is, I would like to know the Vibe attribute of state so I can map it to the LDAP Edirectory.
I would ask that person to follow up with me after with my email address. Again, trsmith@novell.com, and that way you can give me specifics. If it's states tied to workflows, then I would get a different group involved as opposed to a different type of state. So I would ask that person to follow up with me directly.
Okay, and then the next one, can the panel on the left be locked to show only my workspace rather than change to whichever folder I browse to?
No, not today. The panel on the left operates just like File Explorer. So as you're going through the different workspaces and folders, it will always reflect that hierarchy, and then you can navigate through it very similar to File Explorer. When you're doing a landing page, you can turn that left navigation off. So if I go back to where I was at, there's some new icons up here now that you can have a landing page that hides that left navigation. But the option to bring it back is still there. You have other icons that can just get rid of the branding or masthead, and then some other icons that show the breadcrumbs or navigation. So you can turn them off by default in a landing page, but the user would have the ability to bring them back. And it's always context aware. So if I go to any other place, like that home page I started with, I could come back and show the left navigation for that place.
Perfect. Then are my workspace and home page the same thing?
No, the home page is defined by the administrator, and it's probably an area of the site that relates to the entire company. So you can relate that to, most of us have an interweb today, and consider that your home page. It's the landing page that you would go to on your interweb. Your personal workspace is separate from that. So In this particular example, we can think of this page that I'm currently displaying as maybe a home page or a landing page, but I can always go back to my personal workspace by clicking on my name in the top right or the icon here that says My Workspace. And in my workspace, I can see my dashboard, I can see my profile, I can update my microblog, and then I have a number of folders that might be available to me. These folders, what I'm showing here is what comes by default. The administrator can change the template for the personal workspace to add or remove what might be available in the workspace.
Okay, the next one is the login required every time an edit in place is done for a document?
No, it depends. And a lot of this has to do with Microsoft support in Office. Most of us are using Office. I know I demonstrated OpenOffice today, but most of the market still uses Office. With Windows 7, there's some inconsistencies around WebDAV. So we've tried to address some of that with our NTLM and Kerberos work. So in not all cases you have to log in, but there are some cases that we haven't been able to work around yet. And that's some of the reason why we've been working on that Office integration to allow people to work native in those apps without having to go through the route that I demonstrated.
Okay, and then it looks like there's 2 or 3 more. Can you put a start date as a column in tasks?
Start date, yeah, that's something that's new. We've added the ability on all tasks. We just look at one of these. You can come in and modify a task, and you can now create, define start date, end date, and duration. Before it was typically just start and end date, and those were required, but now you can simply attach a duration to a task, and then based on your task ordering in the list, that duration will automatically calculate out the due date based on its previous dependencies. So the short answer is no, but we've done a number of new things that I think will add some added value there.
Okay. Let's see. Where does the program need to be installed that would open a file? On the local workstation?
To open a file, there's nothing that's required there. So right now, everything within Vibe is all browser-based. So when I selected that option that said, go back to my file folder, I'm assuming this is what the person was asking. Actually, the wrong one. When I go back to that file we were looking at, this option to edit in place, that does not require any local installation. It uses WebDAV protocol, and if that is enabled within your IT infrastructure, then users will be able to open it directly within the application. Now, based on the files that are stored, users have the ability to create preferences that will tie, let's see, file types. Sorry, I might have clicked the wrong option here. They can tie file types to particular applications, and that one didn't show that. Let me see if I've got, yeah, I'm not showing it here, so I'll have to. But you have the ability to say certain file types are mapped to applications that in some cases might be unique to your desktop. But right now there's no local client that's required.
Perfect. And this last one, you may not be able to answer. It's just, will task management changes be in GroupWise or just Vibe?
The task management changes that I've showed are just Vibe specific. So our synchronization with GroupWise will basically treat every task as a flat task. I don't expect that we'll preserve any of the subtasking and dependencies because GroupWise just doesn't support that. But as they come across to GroupWise, we'll preserve the start and end dates. That way the durations are accurate. But most of the task management work is specific to Vibe, and we'll continue to work on tasks. We know that in the future we're going to add a simple Gantt chart. We're going to improve the dependency. We're going to improve how people can export task lists. Maybe import task lists, the printing of task lists. Those are all things that are on the roadmap after Evergreen.
Perfect. And that looks like, let's see. Oh, there was one more. Are there plans for similar task linking into Exchange?
Part of the work that we have with our Outlook integration, that's one of the things I mentioned on the roadmap, we'll incorporate some of that. Longer term, we have had plans to build a connector, just like we're building one for Vibe, to build one for Exchange. Before we undertake that, we're going to see how the work with our Outlook plugin how well that's received and how that addresses all the issues. So it's on the roadmap. It might not be addressed in exactly the same way we've done it with GroupWise, simply because we own GroupWise. But the short answer is, yeah, we plan on doing the same type of things with Exchange.
Great. And I think that's all the time we have for questions. If there's any that weren't answered, feel free to contact me at qmangus@grouplink.net or contact Tracy, and we'll be sure to field those questions. And thanks everyone for being here, and thank you, Tracy, for your time and for the information presented.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.